Do you know how much the IPL makes in a cycle as far as their media rights revenue is concerned, which is the largest revenue segment for any sports product? It makes about $6 billion. Do you know how much ICC, the apex cricket body, which basically encompasses all the world tournaments, makes in the same kind of a period, which is called a cycle? It makes about $3.8 billion. We at the Inner Athlete had always said that, 2026 will be a watershed moment for world cricket. It will decide whether the precedents going forward will be club cricket, that is the IPL format of cricket, or whether it will be country cricket, which has been how the sport has been governed and has run over the years, over the last 100 odd years. And there is a paradox in both of these. And you'll say that, what is the paradox? The paradox is this, that basically what happens is, it's the ICC, though it's a global body, and unlike the FIFA, it does not make its revenue from all the countries that play cricket. Majority of the revenue comes only from one nation, and that is India. And that is why, there is a lot of debate that happens, where people keep saying that India bullies the ICC, India basically arm twists other nations in running cricket operations. But I think it's the other way around. Because what is happening is, India finds its mojo with the IPL. The IPL is a product ready to grow. It wants, more tournament time. It wants a larger window. Presently, the IPL has a 2.5 month window. There is no league in the world, a major league sport, which runs for only 2.5 months. Usually it is 6 to 8 months that a league operates. And the IPL has been crying. The demand has been there for a larger IPL. But it's not happening because of international cricket, because of ICC tournaments. And for that, first let's try and understand what has happened with IPL as a product. IPL as a product we have today identified is, absolutely beast of a product from a cricketing point of view, and it is very, very India-centric today. Earlier, we needed players from across the world to come in and play the IPL and basically to create the world-class product that it is. But today, what defines the IPL is basically the domestic Indian talent. The international talents are just adding bits and pieces to every major cricket team. IPL 2026 was defined as the year of Suryavanshi. But there is not just one Suryavanshi. For every Suryavanshi, there was a Raghuvanshi in a KKR, there was Shakib Hussain in Sunrisers Hyderabad, there was a Ayush Matre in a Chennai Super Kings, and the number will keep growing. What is going to define and differentiate a good IPL team from a bad IPL team is the domestic talent that its scouting system builds. And the international cricketers, like say a Pat Cummins, known for his leadership skills rather than for his fast bowling in India, or a Mitchell Starc as an aggressive fast bowler. These are the top class world cricketers that will come in and fill in the bits and pieces, But majorly it's going to be an India-centric tournament. For that, I think it's a large enough tournament today to encapsulate the major cricket talent across the world. It can encompass the entire talent. Most of the bilateral cricket on the other end, which basically, is not having the same kind of effect. It does not have the same kind of popularity. It does not have the same kind of levels. Just look at India's present bilateral cricket since it won the T20 World Cup. They've lost to Ireland in a series. As we are recording this, they've lost to England in one of the openers of the T20 matches. And it's been a long time since 2021, since India has lost about 3 or 4 of, consecutive T20 matches. In fact, between the last 2 World Cups, India had not lost a single T20 bilateral series. And that also shows you that basically bilateral cricket is, not something that is even preferred by the cricketers or, is not being preferred by the consumers of the sport. So what should be the playbook? What has ICC done? And what should IPL do as a way forward? And what should the most important person in world cricket today, Shah, what should his playbook be? Vis-a-vis, he's the ICC chairman today, but he's also an Indian. His, future in cricket comes from what he does for Indian cricket. And therefore, what should be his playbook? Let's try and understand that. We at the Inner Athlete firmly believe that the narrative that India dominates world cricket, bullies its way towards world cricket is not correct. And for that, we'd also like to tell you that there's a wonderful, and I'd not like to repeat a lot of points. I want you to enter rabbit holes and also see other content around this. Some fine people have made some very fine content around the business of Indian sport. And one such podcast that I'd like to mention, from where also I picked up a few points, is The Business of Indian Sport, a podcast that is run by two fine gentlemen, Akhil Ranade and Dhruv Malik. And even they've covered this. We covered it because we were fortunate enough to have guests like Amol Karatkar of The Hindu, K. Srinivas Rao of The Times of India, who have been guests on our podcast, who have also, thrown light on the business of sport and, from a cricketing context. So let me just give you a few figures without, you can deep dive into these podcasts yourself, and you'll find out as to, where the ICC is wrong and how, India needs to play its cards right. From the ICC, it makes about $3.8 billion, right? In this cycle, about a 4 or 5 year cycle. From that, $3 billion comes only from India. $3 billion. Far richer countries which can, where cricket is also, they are a major cricketing nation. And, a lot of times, falsely, there is a narrative that the big three, where you basically club India, Australia and England. And I was corrected on my own podcast with K. Srinivas Rao, where he said there is no big three, there is only one big one. Because $3 billion is what India contributes to the ICC coffers. All the other nations, there are about 112 nations that are, associate or full-time nations. There are about 12 to 13 full-time nations. The rest 100 would be about, are called associate nations. They contribute just about the $0.8 billion to world cricket. If I just give you the figures, like something like a rich country like the United Kingdom, where the game originated, contributes only about $260 million. Vis-a-vis India's $3 billion to the ICC coffers. Australia, another big nation, just $200 million. Correct? So, the point is this. As a way forward, our IPL is asking for a larger window. And we compensate most of these ICC too. And how does ICC make this money? ICC makes this money by basically organizing World Cups. Have you seen the frequency of World Cups? When I started following cricket, a World Cup would be held once in 4 years. So you basically had an ICC event once in 4 years. A matter of fact is that, if you take the ICC cycle between 2023 to 2026, ICC has conducted 14 major international tournaments, completely dependent on the Indian market. 14 tournaments. Like there is every year you will have either or every 6 months you will have a World Cup. It will either be a under-19 World Cup, it will be a Women's World Cup, it will be a Women's T20, a Women's 50, Indian Men's 50, an Indian Men's T20, World Men's T20. These are the kind of World Cups. There are 14 major ICC tournaments and all the money is being funded by India. So, is this what the Indian public is asking for? Is it asking for basically senseless World Cups, or is it asking for its own IPL product to grow further? And I think that's the larger question that we need to decide upon. And at the Inner Athlete, we feel that, presently our IPL is about $6 billion is what the IPL earns in terms of media rights. And that can go up just with one simple thing, with the window going up, which is also which organically the market demands. People also demand, and it needs a better cycle. The IPL is held in a time when in peak Indian summer, where basically the conditions are very, very difficult for players to play. Why isn't your premier tournament being played at the right period of time? Actually, our IPL should be played between October to February. That's the right time for it. Or at least it has to start, maybe it may start in April and May, but it can't start in April and May and then take a break during our Indian monsoon and then come back in September. I think the IPL will have to start somewhere around October and will have to continue right up to March. I think that is what the market demands. That is what the consumer demands. I think we can encompass the entire elite athletes all across the world into this tournament. And I think the rest of the tournaments will have to find its own water, as they say, they will have to find their own revenue streams. Otherwise, they will just be feeder systems to the Indian IPL. And that is how cricket is going to go in the future from here. So what we propose at the Inner Athlete is, from this $3.8 billion, the $3 billion that India contributes to the ICC coffer, that figure, if the IPL revenue stream doesn't grow, which is expected by experts, that the $6 billion that at the moment is coming into the IPL for the IPL rights is not going to grow further in the next cycle, then we need to see to it that, IPL takes precedence. That $3 billion does not go to the ICC, and at least about 20% of that goes into the IPL and Indian domestic cricket back. So for what does the BCCI need to do for that? Well, it needs to create synergy between the IPL and some of the domestic T20 cricket tournaments that are being organized in India. The domestic T20 cricket organized in India, like the Madhya Pradesh Domestic Cricket League, the UP Domestic Cricket League, and I'm not even talking about the big legacy states of Mumbai, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, which also have their own T20 leagues. These T20 leagues are producing the next Suryavanshis, the next Raghuvanshis, the Matres. And therefore, they need to be streamlined into the IPL so that they become the feeder system. Like how the EPL is the premier apex tournament in England. But along with that, you also have the League One, you have the FA Cup, etc. Therefore, they need to find that synergy between all the T20 domestic tournaments in India, and a lot of this money that goes into the ICC coffers and then in turn into also nations like Pakistan and Bangladesh, who are not even grateful about that. It's rather better that that money comes to India, and that's where you understand that we are more similar a market to the American sports market. It's not like the English Premier League is organized in England with a game called football, which is a global sport, and they need to be global for them to make the kind of revenues that they make. But for large domestic consumption markets like the American market, for the Indian market, I think cricket will be a more India-centric sport. We should not worry about how it does globally. Does America worry about how baseball does across the world? It's not the most popular sport across the globe. And I've always wondered that about America, one of the greatest marketeers of the world. But why aren't there sports, as global as, say, the English Premier League? And they don't, because they focus on their own market. It's a very large market. Some of the biggest and the most lucrative sports leagues in the world originate in America and end in America. And I think cricket, something similar is going to happen through the IPL in India. I think it's going to be a very India-centric product. We need to create our product extensions to the Dubai market, which we have discussed earlier, and we'll put it in the show notes where you can go and refer to them as to how India needs to create its own product extensions of the IPL. And to give you a simple figure, I'll just quote something. At the moment, the IPL, we don't play home and away for all the 10 teams. So what we are playing is the total number of matches in the IPL are 74 matches, including the playoffs. So that is because all teams are not playing each other home and away. Only teams within your own group are playing everyone home and away, and the other team you're only playing them once. So for that you need 94 matches. They don't have the window to organize 94 matches. So you are compromising your own IPL product, where the demand is for at least another 20 matches. So you need a window for that. So what is the solution? So maybe eventually what is going to happen is the 94 matches will happen, because market demand is going to see to it, they will put the diktat that, you need all home and away matches for a product like the IPL. But till then, the BCCI can be creative. They can create mini tournaments with 4 teams in countries like Dubai, maybe in Nepal, in Kathmandu, maybe in Dhaka if, the conditions are favorable for India-Bangladesh relationships, and Colombo. In the Asian market, we need to create mini tournaments where these extra 20 matches can be encompassed, and that will in turn increase the revenue for both the broadcaster and also the IPL teams. So that's a creative way of looking at it. Mini tournaments before actually the IPL can become a 94 match. So those extra 20 matches that you need can be, if the window at the moment is not allowing you to take it from 74 to 94 matches, what you do is you create mini tournaments. So say like, three teams. So say Mumbai, RCB and Rajasthan Royals, they go and play a mini tournament over just 3-4 days in Dubai. Maybe Chennai Super Kings, Kolkata Knight Riders and Sunrisers Hyderabad go and play something in Colombo, and maybe like the North Indian teams of Delhi, Punjab and Lucknow could go and play a small tournament in Kathmandu. That will also build your market, and it will also help you, engulf that gap of those 20 matches that you need to basically increase your revenue, which at the moment is facing a crunch because, according to the experts, the $6 billion that at the moment the IPL receives is going to remain stagnant and will not grow. So if they want to grow, they need to create this creativity over here. Now comes the role of the most important man in world cricket today. That man is the ICC president, Shah. What should be Shah's playbook for, cricket? If he wants to make a future in cricket, then I think somewhere he will have to play the Trojan horse. He will have to play the Trojan horse and see to it that ICC and those senseless World Cups that they conduct are curtailed and are brought down. Because, the Indian market far needs those a significant portion. We've identified about 20% of that $3 billion that we, give to ICC in every cycle. Out of that, at least 20% has to come back to the Indian cricket system. And for that, he may need to play the Trojan horse. As the ICC president, he may, it may be conflicting for him, right? He has to create revenues for the ICC. But it's high time that, a lot of times the most powerful man in world cricket has been an Indian, right? So there was Jagmohan Dalmia in earlier times, and his whole goal was to bring those ICC marquee tournaments into India. Everyone remembers the great role he played and KP Salve played in bringing the World Cup from England to India, the 1987 Reliance Cup. Similarly, another very powerful man after Jagmohan Dalmia, if we have to identify, is Lalit Modi. He's in the news nowadays. Lalit Modi may be a man of a lot of flaws, but he's a man who understands sport better than nobody else. And he too believes that, the fulcrum of world cricket, the nerve center of world cricket has to be India and has to be the IPL. So it is for somebody like a Shah to basically sit in that ICC office and decide whether it makes more sense for him to continue as the ICC chairman or whether to come back to India and see to it that India curtails or starts creating barriers for these senseless ICC tournaments where every year there is a world event taking place and very precious Indian money is going into the ICC coffers, which in turn go to other playing nations. While we in India also need this money to grow our cricket in India in a very, very organic fashion. If this topic interested you, if you liked what you saw today, then do like, share and subscribe to the channel. And please share your comments with us, whether you agree with us or not. Whether you feel that ICC should hold precedence and BCCI should curtail its activities, or whether you agree with us and you understand that the BCCI is well within its right to see to it that very precious revenue and money streams don't flow into the ICC coffers, but rather flow into domestic Indian cricket. It's a debate we'd like to encourage over here. Please, pass it to other fellow and sports enthusiasts. We'd like to hear from you. Take care. Goodbye. God bless.